Welcome back to Politics in Color. We are live here at the Democratic National Convention at the United Center. We continue to bring great guests to you at home, as you stream and watch us on politicsincolor.com and visit all of our channels, the YouTube, the IG. We are now joined by Reverend Tony Lee. He's the senior pastor of Community Hope AME Church. And that is in Maryland. So how many members do you have? There might be some out there.
We got a couple of thousand members.
A couple thousand members. Every Sunday?
Not every Sunday, but we got them
That's
there.
a lot. And you do the online thing too?
Online, Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Google TV. Y'all just search Community of Hope AME. Y'all can find us everywhere.
That's great you stepped up to the times. Well, thank you for joining us. Okay, Pastor, what brings you to the Democratic National Convention?
Well, I mean, the work, right? That all of us have to get together and be a part of the work. And so just finding our lane. A couple of things. One, I'm on the Black Church PAC. And so I'm one of the founding members of Black Church PAC, and so we organize and mobilize churches. I'm on the board, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. Under that is the Black Women's Roundtable. Melanie Campbell, who actually spoke on Monday on the main stage in the evening, is executive director there. And so just do a lot of voter organization, mobilization, etc., and just want to get together with everybody so we can get this ball across the finish line.
When I was growing up in church, we would occasionally have pastors come through, depending on the size of your church or the political positioning of your church, and they would come through and talk about, their mostly kind of local issues. What message are you bringing to your congregation without mixing politics with church? What message are you bringing to them to say that you guys need to get out and vote?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, that while you don't have to mix politics and church, the reality is that politics is all of it, right?
Right.
The reality is politics is just how the pie gets split up in a community, that there's a certain amount of limited resources in community, and you have to make sure that you get the resources you need for your area of community, et cetera, right? And so we talked to them about how to be able to leverage the mechanisms of politics so that their community can be all it needs to be. It makes no sense for other communities to have everything, have all of the resources around housing and education, et cetera. And so we're helping them to be able to navigate the systems so that their communities can be better.
Do you find, as a leader of a large church in a black state, I call it a black state, Maryland, that do you find that there are generational differences when it's coming to, how do I put it the right way, from like the Donald Trump era, right? Because I know some older people in our neighborhoods were just scared. They're scared of what, they're scared of losing everything that they've worked for. And they're not sure of the future, and so there's that fear there. Are you finding that there's a generational break in the messaging? Like, how are you getting them engaged, the older people and the younger people, getting them engaged?
So I think
when it's been so vitriol, politics has been so nasty.
So I think the biggest thing is you have to meet people where they are and talk to them in a language that's theirs, right? And so there's a way that I talk to seniors that's different than the conversations I have with Gen Zs, right? And different places I meet them. So say with the work we do phone banking and text banking and all that kind of stuff, right? We do door knocking, all those kinds of pieces. But we also, during the primary, so Angela also Brooks is my county exec. She's running for Senate.
Yes, she is.
We've been supportive of her. But we did a whole club tour during the primary. I was in the clubs.
Like nightclubs?
I was in 2 nightclubs.
The Reverend, you heard it right here on Politics in Color. The Reverend was in the nightclubs.
I was in 2 nightclubs a night. You hear me?
Reverend Lee at the club.
I was in
what was
2
your
nightclubs.
Song? Just tell us your song.
So the thing is, in D.C. area, there's live bands, right?
Yes.
There's go-go music, right?
Yes, go-go is
right?
D.C.
And the bands would let me talk on the mic in between sets.
Okay.
So it'd be 500 people in the club. And I would be able to get on the mic and talk to them about the election, about the necessity of voting, about the logistics around voting, early voting, all of that kind of stuff. And so, you have to go to where people are and have the conversations. Now, clubs
if you was in Atlanta, a mayor in Atlanta, that would be a whole different
club. Yeah, because that's how you know what go-go club is. It's a whole different club. Yeah. So but the funny thing is, though, that my church actually started in a club / strip club. My church started in a nightclub that had strip nights on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
And no, this was a strip club reverend. Yes. I have a strip club reverend sitting right here.
My church started, so they would party till 4 in the morning on Sunday, and we would come in, and we would come in and have church at 10 and 12. Strip night was on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but we had Bible studies on Wednesdays, so we couldn't have Bible study at the club. And I had to make sure to tell everybody that don't be going over to that daggone club with some ones in your hand, acting like you're going to Bible study with offering.
This is a true story.
This is an honest to God story, yes. Yes, we started in it. If you look in the Washington Post did an article on us our first Sunday, and there was a line wrapped around the corner to get into the church, yes.
And then do they just stay? When church is over, do they just stay?
No, they go home. Okay. They go home. But the wild thing is, the wild thing is, I never had to give anybody directions. Everybody knew how to get to the church. I never had to give anybody directions. Everybody in that community knew where my church was.
And so how did that build out into the main church, into the brick and mortar?
So what happened is we were there in that club for about 9 months, but we grew so fast that then we ended up for about 15 years being inside a shopping center, a shopping mall.
Wow.
So we were in the Iverson Mall, and so we were in the and so we were literally the anchor location. Burlington Coat Factory was our upstairs neighbor, and so we were there for about 15 years. And so right now we're in a high school because we're buying a former Macy's.
Oh wow, that's great.
And so we're making it not just a church, but a whole resource center. Our church runs Prince George's County's gun violence prevention program, and so we run that. And so there's all kinds of programming, whether it's mental health, health stuff, workforce training, etc. And so we've got this Macy's about 200,000 square feet that we're going to be building out, and we've got some really wonderful partners and really good for-profit partners with it.
We know that in the black community, in the black and brown communities, that our brothers, the young men, are the hardest to reach right now. How are you, while you're here at the DNC, or even when you're going back in your club tours and all your tours, or even just in your regular sermons, how are you trying to reach the young men of color, to have them get involved, especially in this election?
So I think there are a couple of things, right? Because I think that, one, I don't want us to get caught, while I know we're having challenges reaching young men, I don't want to get us caught into such a false narrative, because the two biggest voting blocks for the DNC, black women, black men. Those are the two most consistent, strongest voting blocks, right? So
well, the numbers have it now that 17% of black men polled now say that they're going to go over to the Donald Trump side.
But with that, black men are still the strongest, still in the number 2 spot as strongest voting block.
Okay.
Right? And so I think
so how do we get them and keep them, get them engaged?
But the thing is, I think it's important to start there, because if I start on the negative about all of y'all are leaving, then I've started the conversation in the wrong way. Okay. Right? Yeah. But if I start in the positive, affirmative of, man, y'all have really been performing over the years. Now, Sis has been outperforming us, but other than that, y'all really been rocking and rolling. What's happened? Then we need to have a conversation about what's going on. What's your thought process? What are you hearing?
And have you started that conversation?
We've been having those conversations. We're having those conversations.
About 70 some days
We're having those conversations in barbershops. Those are the conversations we have in the clubs. And so while we have the club tour, we also have a speaking session tour that is going to all of the various locations where you find brothers and sisters.
And where can people find more information about that? That's your camera right there. Just let people know where they can find it.
I am Reverend Tony Lee. You can find it a couple of places. One, Community of Hope AME Church, www.hiphopenation.com, hiphopenation.com, or anywhere social media at Rev Tony Lee. But also we're doing work with the Black Church PAC, blackchurchpac.com, and you can find information on the various kinds of pieces we're doing in organizing the church and organizing community.
There he is, Reverend Tony Lee, Senior Pastor of the Community of Hope AME Church. Thank you for joining our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor.
Good. Stay with us.